So what about when you want to connect a wire that's going off to something, some sensor, some device, whatever, to a board? Well, I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. I'm going to begin by just cutting some yellow wire, and I'm going to imagine the other end of this yellow wire is the going to whatever. I don't know what it's going to. So way number one is, let's say in row 10 I had some connection that I wanted to make to this yellow wire. I could strip the end of the yellow wire, and I could stick it in here from this side. I would probably fold it over, flip over the back of the board, and solder it on just like this black wire is soldered, except the end of the yellow wire would just go off to wherever it needs to go. So the advantage of soldering it is that it's pretty solid, but there are multiple disadvantages of soldering a wire to a board like this. One disadvantage is that you're not going to be able to flex it very much before it breaks. When you have a wire coming off the board, my assumption is that's going to some other place, and it's possible it will move. Now, if it's inside of a box, inside of an enclosure that's never ever going to move, it's really not a concern. You could have solid core, and this is a solid core wire, it's just one piece of metal, soldered from thing to thing inside of your box. They'll never bend and after it's all installed, and that's okay. However, what if it's possibly going to move? The user may do this a little bit. That little place where it reaches the board, it'll be bent back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and the process of metal fatigue is the process of metal getting bent, and it's not like wood or something. It's not like a natural material. It will simply tear and break at that point after enough bending actions. So that's trouble. The other problem or disadvantage is that it couldn't be detached. So there's a clever thing we can use that kind of gets us some of the advantage of the soldering and nice solid connections, but with detachability. Now, it's not going to solve the problem of metal fatigue. If your wire is going to be bending back and forth and back and forth and back and forth a lot of times, you should use a different kind of wire other than the solid core wire. For instance, a stranded wire, which has many, many small little hairs. And my stranded wire sample disappeared. But it has many small hairs, unlike the solid core single conductor wire. So the thing I was going to introduce that could help solve this problem looks like this. It is called a screw terminal. And actually, this particular one has 5 little screw terminals. This is a really little one, and it's designed to fit right onto your board like this. It'll actually just fit right in there. These are 1/10 of an inch spacing holes, and that's a comfortable little fit. And I'll just show you how this thing actually works. You will solder those legs onto the board, and then you'll have a place that a wire could get attached. How will you actually do the attaching? You'll take a small screwdriver, and I'll just show this from the side. When I unscrew, and it's little, so just mind that, it's quite small. I'm unscrewing, sorry I didn't engage with the threads, this last little thing, and there's something moving in there. There's a little door that's kind of opening up. That little door that's kind of opening up is the place where the wire will go. So then I would stick the wire in to that little place, and then I would tighten the screw, and then it would be held. So let's actually do it just to see. So how do I do this soldering? Well, like I did before, I'm going to probably flip the board. And what I would say is get a piece of tape to hold this thing down so that it doesn't move around. So I'll get a piece of masking tape for that purpose. Like that. Now that it's taped, I'll flip the board over and I can see the little pins there. And I'll just solder 1 or 2 of them, I guess the 2 opposite ends, just for simplicity and speed of soldering. I'm going to turn on my fan. I'll do this one at the end. And this one at this end. Okay. Set my iron down safely. I can now take off that blue tape, and the little screw terminal thing is held in place. And now just to complete the circuit, complete the cycle and actually make the connection, first of all, I'm going to make actually a shorter amount of exposed metal. I'll use the wire cutter and only expose like that much metal. We really don't need that much, and we don't ever, in general, we don't want exposed extra conductors, because exposed extra conductors are liable to accidentally make electrical connections. So just to start with one that I haven't touched yet, and I'm doing this to reiterate that you actually need to unscrew first to get that little gate to open. It's difficult for me to do this and keep it on screen because of the trickiness of the angle. So I've unscrewed. I can see a little gate opening. I'm going to put the yellow wire in there and tighten it down. Okay. Once that screw is tight, and it's a really small screw, so I don't tighten it real hard or anything. But once that screw is tight, if I give the yellow wire a tug, it does not come out. It's fixed. It's pretty solid in there. And of course, if I wanted to connect this yellow wire to anything else in the circuit, well, I would need to make some connection so this is in row 15, so I'd have to put another wire in row 15 somewhere and then make it go wherever it needs to go. So there you go, wire to board by use of screw terminals.